Okay, so
and if I don't clean it right, she whines, and nobody likes a whiner.
No one likes whiners. That's what we're talking about today with Dr. Matt, and we're talking about kids and whining. And all right, Dr. Matt, there are two things that I cannot stand in our house. One is whining. One is not listening for the kids. Okay.
Do they go hand in hand?
Actually, they do. The important thing to know about whining is why kids whine.
And a lot of times they get into a habit kind of doing it.
Oh, absolutely. They get into the habit because it works. Whining gets our attention. Even negative attention, kids don't really differentiate on what's positive and negative. Sometimes my kid will start whining, I'll start talking to them about whining, they just skip right over that, they've got my attention, they go on with their question. So whining gets our attention, we have to give kids attention in a better way that reduces whining.
So are you saying whining is kind of like bait to get your attention?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's not conscious necessarily, it's a learned behavior. We kind of reinforce it by when they whine, we listen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, all right. So there are some mornings, and this is normally I feel like on a weekend because we're kind of starting the day and I feel like just right out of the gate, it's like, Mom, I need this. And last weekend, it's funny we're talking about this because I said, I'm not going to listen to that voice. If you want to say it normal, I'll answer you.
Perfect. Yeah, actually, what we want to do is identify when they're whining, we kind of call them on it, and then we give them what I call a do-over. I'm a big believer in giving kids do-overs or try-agains because that allows them to practice doing it the right way, and then you can give them your attention, which is the reward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
So that's really important. So good job, Debbie.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I did something right. All right, and you say to model a patient tone, and tone has become a big problem in our house too, because everyone's just, I mean, my kids were off track for a full month. That we were all on each other's nerves.
Well, there's a fight in my house always going, who's like, no, she gets that from you, no, she gets that from you. You know, the yelling or the tone. I mean,
well, kids, a whiny tone is irritating, and that's why it gets our attention. But we don't realize that a lot of times our tone of voice when we're asking kids to do things is similarly irritating to the children. And so it's important to be patient and try to bring our tone down a little bit. Another thing that's important is to say what we mean. So a lot of times we string our kids along, we tease them. They're trying to get our attention, they ask for something, and we say things like, just a minute, or I'll be right with you, and then we never do. We don't follow up because we get busy. And so kids keep coming back and whining and whining and whining. So it's important to recognize that we got to say what we mean. So if you're going to come back and say, you know what, I need 2 minutes, then you kind of need to time yourself. Does that make sense?
Make sure you follow through.
Yeah. And probably the most important tip for parents is to make sure that we pay attention to the child the first time they say something to us. Whining is an attention-seeking behavior, and so if our child has to try to get our attention 3 or 4 times, then of course they're going to start to whine because that's so irritating it gets our attention.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Oh, it's totally irritating. We just spent a week down in Moab, and by the time we got back, family fun.
And he's a doctor.
Yeah, by the time I got back, you know, it was hands on the steering wheel and like,
give me back
10 and 2, 10 and 2, 10 and 2.
That's when technology is great. Plug in, kids, and you know,
but
just at home.
I think technology becomes a problem too because even as parents, we're like trying to do work from home and texting, and I really noticed that that's when my kids start being really
they're trying
annoying.
to get our attention, right?
I need to just set it aside and give them the attention.
Yeah, there's some interesting research on how emotionally it affects our kids when they're trying to get our attention over and over again. And whining is really their main weapon of choice. They can get our attention pretty quickly. So what I do recommend to parents is even if you're on the phone or you're at the door, you're talking to someone else, make sure you acknowledge your child the first time that they try to get your attention and let them know they'll have to wait, but that waiting has to have a reasonable limit. So
which is pretty short for a little kid.
Yeah, if we're talking preschool,
their attention span's not very long.
It needs to be very short for a preschooler. It can be older for an elementary or junior high kid, but it also has to be accurate. So if you say, I need 2 minutes, you really need to come back and talk to them in 2 minutes, or I'll finish this conversation and I'll be right with you, then you need to have their attention. So giving good eye contact, pausing so they know you've heard them, and then giving them an accurate sense of when you'll be back with them can really reduce whining.
Don't forget the do-over.
The do-over is great. I love the do-over. It's my favorite, actually, because what it does is it allows a child to practice over and over again the way you want them to talk, and the more that reinforces their behavior, the less likely they are to whine.
All right, people, if people want more information about you, Dr. Matt, where do they go?
You can check out theshrinkshow.com. There's a blog that we just posted today on whining, so you can go read that and listen to the podcast.
Oh, very good. Okay, thanks a lot. And in just a few minutes, we'll tell you how you can win a $25 gift card